The 15th and early 16th centuries turned out to be a difficult time for Ukrainian lands. First of all, their location near the border let itself be known. Tatar sorties from the south were almost a yearly occurrence. They took people into slavery and plundered farms. In the east, there were constant clashes with the Moscow kingdom, which was quickly gaining political influence. Gradually, Moscovites tore Smolensk and Chernihiv regions and Sivershchyna from the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. After losing the Livonian War, almost all Ukrainian lands were occupied by Moscow. In addition, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was torn apart by internal strife. After signing of the Krevsky Union with the Kingdom of Poland, the Lithuanian and Ruthenian gentry quickly started turning Polish, switching from the Orthodox faith to Catholicism. Polish laws began taking precedence over traditional legal proceedings under the Lithuanian statutes. In the end, in 1569, the Union of Lublin was signed, which strengthened the rule of the Poles as the Kingdom of Poland, and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania formally united into a single state, the Commonwealth. By the way, in order to divide the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and to sow discord between the Lithuanian and Ruthenian princely families, the Poles immediately subjected almost all Ukrainian lands to the Polish government. However, that united the families of Ruthenian Orthodox princes, Ostrożski, Czartoryski, and Vishnevetsky even more. Polish barons failed to understand that by oppressing the influential Orthodox princes, they planted a time bomb under their very statehood. Soon after, the Cossacks emerged from private royal troops who would become the core of restoration of the Ukrainian sovereign state. The Cossack army appeared in response to the occupation. They began to fight for the rights of the local population, which was completely disregarded by the Poles. This was because the Poles did not recognize the Lithuanian statutes and did not recognize the original self-government of the former Kievan Rus. The Cossack state emerged from the confrontation with the Polish crown. Incidentally, the state was founded by Lithuanian nobleman Vishnevetsky, the same Baida who built his castle on the island of Hortytsa. The period of building of the Cossack state began from Hortytsa. After the Union of Lublin, the Ukrainian lands were divided into 7 voivodeships. The Galician lands preserved the name of the voivodeship of Rus. All those territorial units became the direct property of the Polish crown, although the Volyn, Bratslav and Kiev voivodeships retained the traditional Ruthenian written language and the effective Lithuanian statute laws. However, while the gentry retained and even expanded its privileges, average peasants were stripped of them with the formation of the Commonwealth. The peasants who had lived on the land of the feudal lord for more than 10 years and could not buy it out were turned into personally dependent serfs. In the end, that caused a large outflow of enslaved peasants to the free lands near the borders. Those fugitives united into artels, formed joint farms and learned to defend them both from their former owners and Tatar incursions. They started calling themselves Cossacks, free people in their interpretation. Soon, those groups became such a powerful and economic force that the princes of the lands near the border started hiring them. They settled those free people along the border, where they carried out military service. At the same time, they made considerable profits for the princes due to hunting and crafts. Soon, those groups formed their own social center when they built the first fortresses that were named Sich. Very soon, those Siches also became political centers. When the Commonwealth tried to conquer and subjugate this society of free people, they rebelled and eventually won. They also restored the independent Ukrainian state under its traditional name, the Grand Duchy of Ruthenia, but before that, about a dozen Cossack insurrections took place, which ravaged the Commonwealth for almost the whole first half of the 17th century. As a result of the Cossack uprisings, regiments called the Hundreds were issued. They were first legalized by the Kurukiv Agreement of 1625, signed by Hetman Mikhailo Doroshenko and the Polish authorities. Back then, 6 regiments were formed in the territory of the Upper Dnipro, Ukraine, both as military and administrative units with their headquarters in Kiev. After the Kurukiv Agreement, the Cossacks became the first recognized military unit. They were listed in the so-called state registers. The Cossack army was divided according to the territorial principle and was divided between all of the southeastern lands of the Commonwealth. In a matter of 20 years, under the rule of Hetman Bogdan Khmelnytsky, every Ukrainian voivodeship had from 3 to 18 Cossack regiments. In total, there were over 360,000 Cossacks. The military structure of those regiments was also the local administrative structure. Seen as its colonel and officer council, served as the governor, judge, tax inspector, and law enforcement officers on the subordinated territory. Lower hierarchical structures of the Cossack army also had similar functions. Thus, there was a Cossack hundred in every city, and the head of the hundred served as the mayor of that city. However, that did not mean that Cossack officers were tyrannical rulers.
Те ж саме віче, яке скликалося в окремих містах.
The same Viche, which was convened in the cities of the princely Kievan Rus, was able to develop on the territory of the Cossack Zaporizhia Sich. The hetman, relying on those democratic institutions, could strengthen and engage the state-owned potential of individual regions, thus transforming it into a powerful hetman militaristic state.
Потужну гетьманську військово-мілітарну державу.
The structure of the Cossack authorities relied exclusively on elective rights. All important political, social, and even land decisions were made and approved at the general meetings of all Cossacks. Such general meetings, Cossack Great Councils, were held at least twice a year. There were also Black Councils, when ordinary citizens who were not Cossacks gathered for such meetings. They also often made important political decisions. In the time outside of the meetings, the so-called Cossack Starshina ruled, which was essentially the Mala Rada that mainly consisted of Cossack officers. They were all elected at the general meetings. Inherently, the Cossack state was a late medieval republic, just like the Commonwealth, which this autonomous military and political structure was a part of.
When
they say that Ukraine did not exist as a state, then with whom were all these non-existent at the time Pereyaslav Articles and the already existing March Articles signed? Secondly, we had a hetman, and who was a hetman? He was not just a colonel. In truth, he was the official leader of the Ukrainian state.
Він керівник української держави.
Hetman Bogdan Khmelnytsky can actually be considered the ruler of a full-fledged European state. The approval of him in this status was preceded by the bloody war against the Commonwealth that lasted 6 years. Accordingly, this Polish-Ukrainian war ended with our undisputed victory and Poland's recognition of the Cossack state led by Bogdan Khmelnytsky. Bogdan Khmelnytsky signed a number of international agreements, which became the basis of international recognition of the Ukrainian Cossack state, as well as international recognition of the restoration of the state of Kievan Rus. It all started with the famous agreement with the Crimean Khanate, signed in 1648. which gave Bogdan Khmelnytsky the right to submit territorial claims to the Commonwealth.
Претензії до Речі Посполитої.
Those claims were soon realized after the defeat of the Polish army near Zborov. The Zborov agreement was signed between Bogdan Khmelnytsky and the King of the Commonwealth, which confirmed the rights of broad autonomy of the Cossack state within the Commonwealth. Soon after, the Cossack state was recognized by Sweden, Moldova, Transylvania, Muscovy, and other neighbors as a subject of international law.
Та угода, яку підписав
The agreement signed by Ambassador Ivan Bohun with the Kingdom of Sweden in 1657 formed the basis for an expanded agreement between Ivan Mazepa and the Swedish king Charlemagne XII in the early 18th century. Thus, all subsequent international agreements concluded by the Ukrainian Cossack state on behalf of their hetmans were based on the agreements signed by Bogdan Khmelnytsky.
Ті угоди, які були заключені саме Богданом Хмельницьким.
У міжнародній політиці
In international politics, Bogdan Khmelnytsky pursued a policy of balancing influences. He formed alliances with virtually all of the neighboring states. His vision was that when the Commonwealth would want to turn into an aggressor again, another ally of Bogdan Khmelnytsky, the Crimean Khanate, would help restrain it. And if the Crimean Khanate would suddenly start seeking to strip us of our freedom, the Moscow kingdom would help it reconsider. However, Bogdan Khmelnytsky made a fatal mistake in regards to the latter.
припустився просто фатальної помилки.
But that is a topic for the next episode. In the meantime, remember that every phenomenon in history has its own pros and cons. It's pro and contra.